Today I got to play Monday morning quarterback because over the weekend, Costco just released their Kirkland Signature irons, and I do have a set coming my way that I will get later this week. By the way, hit subscribe if you want to see that video where I take them on course and test these things in real world conditions. But on today's video, like I said, we're going to analyze this release. I'm going to show you what I think is really positive about this release, and I'm going to show you where I think Kirkland Signature fell short with these golf clubs. There's 5 reasons in particular, which we'll cover later in the video. But first, let's start off with what we know. First off, we know the pricing. Costco has released these clubs at $499 online. Now, once they do reach the stores, I imagine we'll see them for a little less in stores. My guess is $449. They're usually a little cheaper in store, but online, if you were to purchase these, $499. The next thing we know is that they're sold out already. They sold out within an hour or two of their release. I actually missed it myself, but thanks to Adrian, a kind member of the Let's Play Through community, I will have these clubs to test later this week. He was able to purchase them before they sold out, so they sold out very quickly. Now, we don't know how many sets were released. My guess is it wasn't a huge amount, maybe 1,000 sets, something like that, but we don't know those specifics for sure, but they did sell out really quickly, so there is excitement for these irons. The next thing we know for sure now is the type of clubs we are. And in fact, Costco has released some pictures and some diagrams of these clubs and how they're constructed. The new Kirkland Signature clubs are a player's distance iron. Very much in the same vein as the TaylorMade P790s, things like the Titleist T200s, Mizuno 225s, that sort of thing. They're gonna have a blade look to them, so they're gonna have sleek, good looks, but they're a hollow-bodied construction, and they're going to be filled with some sort of speed foam. That speed foam provides feel and forgiveness in other clubs like this, so I imagine these new Kirkland Signature clubs are going to feel pretty darn good when you strike them. Now, interestingly, there are some internet sleuths who have already uncovered what these clubs likely are or where they came from. AZ Golf Nut 2 on the GolfWorks forum tracked down this set of Justin irons produced by Xiaomin Jazdi Sports. I probably butchered the pronunciation of that Chinese brand, but these things are made in Asia. And those, if you were to buy 4 through pitching wedge, looks like heads only, that would be $209.93. So these are quite a significant markup, even though they're priced on the lower side of the spectrum for golf equipment. I tend to think that AZ Golf Nut 2 is right, but we will see once I have these things in hand and I can compare them to those other Justin clubs as well. But very interesting and good detective work there. Next thing we know is the set makeup. This is going to be comprised of a 4 through pitching wedge, 7 clubs, and that's pretty much the modern standard these days. Now, if we look further here, we also know the loft, as well as some of the other specs on these clubs. You can see at the 4 iron, this sits at 20 degrees. It's 31 degrees at the 7 iron and 45 degrees at the pitching wedge. So what's nice there is it's not a completely loft jack setup, but they're towing the line right at the end of what players' distance irons look like here in the modern world. More on the lofts here in my negative section of the video, so stay tuned for that. Now, the next thing we know is the shafts and the components that these will come with. They're going to come with a True Temper Elevate 115 steel shaft. So it's nice to see a True Temper shaft added to these. That's not a particularly expensive version of a True Temper, but that's a shaft from a quality manufacturer, so they're not junking us out, cheaping us out with the shaft selection here. That's nice to see. I also think 115 grams is a good weight for your average golfer out there. I like that. They're also going to come with a decent grip on it, the Lambkin Crossline 360 grip. Again, they're not completely cheaping out on the components, which is nice to see. That grip will last you many, many rounds to come. The next thing we know is the Costco return policy itself is incredibly generous. It's definitely the best in class when it comes to golf, and it's probably the best return policy out there in the marketplace in general. So the nice thing for us as consumers is that if you buy these clubs and you do not love them, you can very easily return them. I've returned Costco items myself. I've never had a problem, no issue. They do not give you any flack, which is really nice. When you're buying a set of golf clubs that you can't test, you're going to want to have the ability to return them if possible. Now, on the flip side for Costco, I imagine they're going to see a lot of returns of these irons from folks that these just don't fit, whether it's the shaft or some of the other characteristics of these clubs. It's just impossible to build a club that suits everybody, so inevitably there will be returns. Now, Costco being Costco, I'm sure they've done the math. I'm sure they've done the market research, and they know about what those percentages of return clubs will be, and I'm sure they've priced it accordingly. But again, nice as a consumer to have that option for yourself. So like I said, I cannot wait to try these ones later in the week. There's literally not a person on planet Earth that is more excited than me. I have been waiting. I have been constantly scrolling the website for the past year, waiting for their golf clubs to release. I've read everything there is to read about them, and I could not be more pumped. But I would be remiss and I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I think these clubs have at least 5 negatives that I see that are potentially going to hold people back from buying these clubs. And I don't think it's a complete reach to say that this could be, in fact, a flop for Costco. Only time will tell, but let me get into what I think here. First off, I'm kind of shocked that they went with this category of clubs. I think that your average golfer out there, or certainly Costco's average customer, someone who's browsing the meat section and then happens to look over and see a set of golf clubs and it's going to be an impulse buy, I think that person is likely going to appreciate a game improvement club over a player's distance club. As I said, because of the speed foam, because of the construction, they're probably going to be relatively easy clubs to hit for, again, someone who's a mid-handicap or lower. But for your high handicappers out there, you could probably do better than a player's distance iron, honestly. And so I'm kind of surprised that for their first club release, they went with it. But on the flip side, I know that the P790 style of clubs, that has really taken the market by storm. It's probably the best-selling category of clubs right now. And we know that golfers often think they play better than they really do. I'm sure, again, Costco did their research there, but I would have liked to see a game improvement club released first. The next negative here for me on my list was there was not a left-handed version released. What a missed opportunity by Costco here. That is such an underserved market. There are so many club manufacturers that do not produce clubs for lefties, but we already see them offer left-handed versions of their KS1 putter as well as the wedges, and so why not these? Why not these? Sorry, lefties, you got left out right now. I'm hoping later in the year we'll see them. The next thing on my list here is pricing. At $499 for 7 clubs, that's good, but that is far from great. On this channel, you've probably seen me test a number of really high quality irons this year that were around the $399 mark. They are out there, and I think if Costco really wanted to succeed, really make a splash with these Kirkland Signature irons, they probably should have priced them just a little bit lower. As I mentioned earlier, if you go in store, I assume once they hit stores, we're going to see them for less than we see them online. But again, only time will tell. Now, the funny thing and the more maddening thing for consumers is that you've already got scalpers on eBay putting these clubs up for double retail. I'm seeing them for as high as $1,000 plus online for this set of irons. That is crazy. Do me a favor, do not give in to these greedy scalpers. That price, $1,000, you have so many options, especially on the secondary market for really ultra premium clubs. You would be crazy to spend $1,000 on these clubs from this brand. So do not feed the scalpers. But yeah, the pricing for me is about $100 higher than I was hoping to see. Now, the next thing on my list may sound a little bit petty, but I am a former graphic designer, so please do hear me out. The logo on these clubs is just massively oversized. You do not need that big of a logo. If I am a person who's trying to save some money and I want to buy a Kirkland Signature club, I don't need to announce it to the world. A nice understated logo like Tacoma has or Cali has, or some of the more modern players looking irons that come from these direct-to-consumer brands, that would be plenty. And you'd really let the club's design shine and be front and center. I think having that logo is just too big for my taste. Now, the last thing that I think Costco missed with this release of the Kirkland Signature irons is in the lofts. The loft profiles of these clubs don't make sense with their current lineup of clubs that they're already offering. The pitching wedge at 45 degrees and their wedge set, which starts at 52 degrees, will give you a 7-degree gap. That is just too much of a gap between clubs. I've been saying for a while that their wedges would be better suited for more modern setups if they were 50, 54, 58. rather than this 52, 56, 60. But that said, if you're going to build a set of irons, you've got to have that pitching wedge somewhere at least at 46 and probably 47 to make it really work as a full complete set. So I think that was a miss from Costco here as well. Now, all that said, I am still thrilled and excited that Costco has even developed these clubs, and I cannot wait to test them out on course. What about you? What do you think of these clubs? Where did they get it right? Where did they get it wrong? I would love to know down below, and I hope I see you here later this week on the video where I take them here in my studio to test out, as well as on course. We're gonna have a ton of fun, so make sure you're subscribed and do not miss it. I'll catch you then on the next edition of Let's Play Through.